Mike, Akash, you also mute your mic. Akash Cheswal, mute your mic. Now, we'll start Unit 4 today. It is the transport layer. So we'll start with the functions of transport layer. What are the major functions of transport layer? Uh, and for what the transport layer, the four layer of OSI is responsible. So there are, before that, you can revise the functions of the fourth layer of OSI. The transport layer is also known as process to process communication layer, which is mainly responsible for delivering the entire message from source to destination. Taking the entire message from one end and delivering it properly without any error, without any damage to the other host is the responsibility of your transport layer. So this is this is the basic function of this transport layer, and we'll discuss about the detailed functions of this layer one by one. So we'll start with the first one, that is your fragmentation and reassembly. Fragmentation reassembly, the first function of transport layer, process to process communication layer. Now, what is fragmentation and reassembly? Plus, there are certain limitations imposed by each country over the message. Let's say there are some norms by government of India over the communication system. Similarly, let's say the government of China, they have certain norms that they need to follow for the communication system. Similarly, the other countries. So each country has decided their own rules for the communication, and because of that, we need to perform this function called fragmentation reassembly. Let's say we have a message of say 100 MB. Okay, we have a 100 MB message and we want to send it from host A to host B. Um, this is not shown in our this PDF. So you can write down here. This is host A and this is host B, and we are sending a 100 MB message from host A to host B, and there are two networks in between, N1 and N2. Okay, so now how the communication will take place in this case, when we are sending a message of 100 MB through the two networks N1 and N2. So there are certain limitations of this network N1. There are certain limitations of network N2. So now, what are these limitations? What could be the limitations? So the limitations are like the hardware limitation of the network, software limitation of the network, then it's government protocols, operating systems, and the other compliances with the national and international standards. Okay, so there are certain rules of each country that they impose over the communication system. So let's say we have two networks and we want to send our message from host A to host B. Now, class, what is fragmentation and reassembly? So before moving on to, what is fragmentation and reassembly? Fragmentation, as we know that, fragmentation means dividing a large piece of any object into the smaller one, and reassembly means combining these smaller objects and forming the large one. So this is the overall thing of about your segmentation reassembly. Segmentation means dividing a large piece of, in case of communication, the segmentation means dividing a large information piece into the smaller pieces, and reassembly means combining these smaller pieces and from the original large information. Now there are two types of this fragmentation and reassembly system. uh, One is called transparent fragmentation, and second is your non-transparent fragmentation. So transparent fragmentation means, uh, in this case, this is the example of a transparent fragmentation, in which we are sending a data segment of 100 MB from host A to host B, and there are two networks involved, N1 and N2. Let's say the maximum size, because we know that there are limitation over the size over the data that we are sending from across the network. So let's say the network N1 applies the limit of 10 MB over the data. Similarly, network N2 has a limit of 20 MB over the data. That means the maximum data size that can move in this network is 10 MB, and in this network, the maximum data size that can move is 20 MB, and the data that we are sending from host A is of 100 MB. So our 100 MB data cannot move as it is through this network. So what we'll have to do, we'll have to divide it into the smaller pieces, and the size of that piece should not be larger than the 10 MB. I mean, because the 10 MB is the maximum size over the data segment. So now when we are sending this data of 100 MB, we are what we have done, we have divided this 100 MB data into 10 pieces each of 10 MB. Okay, so now 10 into 10 equal to 100 MB, which was the original data. Now all these 10 data segment will move through the network, and on the exit point of this network, according to the transparent fragmentation, we have to reassemble the data, and we will have to form the original data that was sent, that has entered in the gateway of transport layer. Or one more thing I want to tell you. As we have discussed about the components of network, or the different devices that we use on the different layer of OSI. So corresponding to transport layer, if you remember, we have discussed this thing. For transport layer, we use the transport gateways. Okay, so when the data is entering, that means it is passing through the entering gateway of this network N1, and as soon as it is entering in this N1 network, from its gateway, what the entry gateway is doing, it is dividing the data into smaller pieces of 10 MB each. Now all these data segment will move through the network, through this network N1, from entry gateway to exit gateway, because there are two networks involved. So every time the data will move data will enter in one network, and data will exit one network, unless it is not arriving on the final destination. So what we are doing here, I mean, when this data was in this network N1, this data was divided into smaller pieces of 10 MB each. And on the exit gateway of this network N1, what we are going to do, according to the transparent gateway, transparent fragmentation, we have to reassemble the data into its original form. That means this exit gateway of network N1 will combine all these segments into a single data which has entered from this gateway, and will again get this 100 MB data. Now again this data is moving into this network N2. This is network N2, and the maximum permissible size according to the network N2 protocol is 20 MB. Let's say this is a different altogether different network, in which the maximum data that can move in this network is of 20 MB. So what we have to do, we have to again segmentize our data into these smaller pieces, and the size of each piece should not be more than 20 MB. So now what we are doing, we have divided this 100 MB data on the entry gateway of this network N2 into 5 pieces, and the size of each piece should not be more than 20 MB. Now all these 5 pieces will move from the entry gateway to the exit gateway of this network, and as soon as all the 5 components will leave this exit gateway, what we are supposed to do, we have to recombine this data, because we are following the transparent gateway. I'll tell you what is non-transparent. Just understand the transparent gateway. According to this, we have to again reassemble this data, and finally this data will arrive on the destination, that is your host B. So I mean, segmentation and reassembly. Again, segmentation and reassembly. So after the data, as soon as the data is leaving network, we have to reassemble the data after each on each exit gateway. So this is your transparent fragmentation and reassembly. Now, what is non-transparent fragmentation? In this case, what we are doing here, once the data 100 MB data has entered in network N1, we have divided this data into 10 MB size, and now all the time when the data is moving across this network, it will get out of this network, and again we are not going to recombine the data. I mean, similar to the previous one, unlike the previous one, we are not recombining the data to form the original data of 100 MB. What we are doing here, we are sending the 10 MB data as it is through the different network. So now all these 10 MB segments 10 segments each of 10 MB will move from network N1 to network N2. Now, as soon as it will arrive on the network N2, the maximum permissible size of network N2 is 15 MB. So now here we, again, because the maximum permissible size is 15 MB and we have the data of 10 MB. So now there is no problem, and all these 10 segments will move across this network N2 also, and they will finally arrive on the destination. As soon as it will arrive on the destination, now this is the responsibility of your destination to recombine all these 10 segments and form the original data. So this is the difference between the two approaches, segmentation and reassembly. Now, plus the question is where we can apply the non-transparent fragmentation and where we should apply the transparent fragmentation. So in this case, like if we are aware about the size of each maximum size of each network, in that case we will divide will divide the data into the according to the smallest size, smallest permissible size, and in that case data will your data will move from source to destination without any problem, and only in the destination we will recombine it. Now just imagine the case where the maximum permissible size of this network N2 is 5 MB. So now we are entering the data of 10 MB in the network, which is actually allowing the data of 5 MB. In that case, this data won't allow your 10 MB packets to 10 MB segments to enter the through this entry gateway, and this entry gateway will stop the segments. So in that case, it won't work. In that case, we are supposed to use the transparent gateway, transparent fragmentation approach. So this is the difference between the two approaches that we have learned this topic, transparent and non-transparent fragmentation. Class, if there is any doubt, you can ask me. Otherwise, I'll move to the next topic. If you have any doubt, you can ask me questions. Class, if you have any doubt, you can ask me the questions. Otherwise, Abhishek, Aditi, Akash, if you have any doubt, you can ask me. Otherwise, I'll move further to the next topic. I have unlocked the meeting. It is unlocked now. If anyone want to enter, they can come. Ajay, anyone, if you have any doubt, you can tell me. Otherwise, I'll move further to start the next topic. Ayush is asking for the division of classes. Ayush, let me complete. The session. After that, I will complete. I will revise the. So now the next topic is. Just a minute. Next topic is a protocol. That is, there are two major protocols on the transport layer, the TCP and UDP. TCP stands for Transmission Control Protocol, and UDP is User Datagram Protocol. So out of these two, we'll start with our UDP protocol first. UDP stands for User Datagram Protocol. So now, class, what is UDP? UDP stands for User Datagram Protocol. It's a very, this kind of protocol is used where the size of data is very small, and we want to move data in a very fast speed. So this kind of protocol can be applied on this kind of network, and this is the header format of this protocol, because there are inside the according to the transport layer, inside the IP header, Internet Protocol header, this is the IP datagram, and inside the IP datagram, we have two protocols, UDP or TCP. I mean, when we'll study the TCP protocol, in that case, on this place we'll have our TCP header. The only difference is TCP and UDP is TCP can be used for connectionless, unreliable network, whereas the TCP follows the connection-oriented and the reliable communication, whereas the UDP follows the connectionless and unreliable kind of network. So this is the difference between the two networks. So now, class, we'll study the first protocol, that is your UDP or the user datagram protocol. So inside the IP header, the Internet Protocol datagram, Internet Protocol packet, we have UDP on this location. UDP stands for User Datagram Protocol, and I have told you this kind of protocol is used where the size of data is very small. That size of data is very small, and we want our data to move in a very fast speed. So, if you can recall that, we have discussed one protocol called we have discussed one routing algorithm, the flow-based routing algorithm, in which I have told you that we first send a pilot packet to check the network conditions, and if the network conditions, if the mean time is minimum, on that path only we send our data, HFDHL data. So this kind of protocol, the UDP, is applicable for that kind of communication where you want to check the current condition of network. And this is the header format of UDP. Header format means many times I have told you, just like the envelope, the to field, the from field, the postal charges. So this is the data about the data about the data, and data about this packet. So inside the UDP header, we have this TCP, this UDP header of 8 bytes actually, and these 8 bytes are divided into 2 byte each in the four fields. 16-bit of source port number, then 16-bit for destination port number, then 16 bits for checksum field, and 16 bit for total length of UDP datagram. Because this length is variable, so we define this length under this field of 16 bits. So this is the total 8 byte header of UDP. So now what is the purpose of these source port number, destination port number, checksum field, and total length of UDP datagram? Plus, I have told you earlier also, there are certain layers in OSI, and according to OSI, there are certain addresses. So, according to the first two layer, that is physical and data link layer, we have physical address. Then, corresponding to network layer, we have a logical address. On the transport layer, the layer on which at this time we are working on, we have address called the port number. Okay, port number means the number corresponding to the service. Like if you are going to open the details of your email system, you will find that all the email boxes, all the email that you are using at this time work on the 25 number port of TCP, 25 number port of transport layer, and this that means the port number of the service, the type of service is defined under this source port number and destination port number. So the service which has originated this data segment, its port number is defined under this this address field of source port number. Similarly, this 16-bit address field of destination port number defines the port number of service for which the data was created. The 16-bit field of checksum means this. After this unit, we are going to discuss the remaining part of unit 2, and this covers the error detection and correction part. And checksum is one of the method of finding the errors in the data. So these 16 bits in the inside the UDP header are used for checking the errors in the data. Okay, so checksum is one of the method for finding the errors, and that we will discuss in unit 4 after this unit. So these 16 bits are used for checksum purpose, and the total length of the UDP datagram, that means it is the IP header, then the UDP header and data. So the complete datagram, the length of complete datagram is defined under the 16-bit field. So the maximum size cannot be more than 2 to the power 16 bits of this datagram. So this is how the UDP datagram is defined. So this is the header format of your UDP datagram. These are the details corresponding to this header. Now, what is the uses of UDP? As I've told you, UDP is based for the simple request response command with little concern for flow control and error control. I mean, there are very limited options for error control and flow control under this protocol. And also, I mean, the protocol is very simple. It is just follow two options: request and response. Also, I have told you that it cannot be used for sending the bulk data. UDP only support the small size data segments suitable for process with internal flow control and error control, because the UDP doesn't offer the flow control and error control. So error control we have just a checksum method. So when the process should have some method to find out the errors in the method. And finally, the management services suitable for the management services. As I've told you, if you want to find out the current situation of the network, in that case, we can use this kind of protocol, the UDP protocol. Okay, just like SNMP. SNMP, we have discussed about SNMP. SNMP was there in Unit 5, and I hope that you have studied about that in Unit 5. Now, class, after similar to because inside this IP header, class, just like this IP header, as I have told you that on the transport layer we have basically two protocols, UDP and TCP. Okay, so if we are using a connection less and unreliable service, I repeat, if we are using a connection less unreliable service, in that case we can use a protocol like UDP. But if we are using a connection oriented service and a reliable communication, connection oriented means there is a logical connection between the source and destination. In case of UDP, there is no not even a logical connection exists between the source and destination. So UDP can be used for the purpose of connectionless. You can write down somewhere in your copy if you are making a note. UDP can be used for connectionless and unreliable services, whereas the TCP, the next protocol that we are going to discuss, is used for the purpose of connection-oriented and reliable services. Reliability means the services in which we have some acknowledgements. Now, after UDP, we are going to discuss the TCP, that is your Transmission Control Protocol. TCP stands for Transmission Control Protocol. TCP stands for Transmission Control Protocol. So, as I've told you that the inside the IP datagram, we have similar IP header just like the UDP packet. The only difference is the TCP header. Unlike the previous one, we have only the TCP header and the data. Now, in case of TCP, we have the size of TCP header. It can vary from 20 bytes to 60 bytes. In case of UDP header, the size of header was fixed 8 bytes. In this case, the size of TCP header can vary from 20 bytes to 60 bytes. Now, why it is variable? Because in this protocol, you can see that there are two variable fields. These dash lines means the field is variable. This has dash line. So there are two fields which have variable size, and when these two fields can vary up to the 40 bytes. So If the two fields are 0, that means the size of this datagram is 20 bytes. Otherwise, it can vary up to 60 bytes. So now we are going to discuss the TCP header format. What is the header format of TCP? Now, class, we'll start. Similar to your IPv6 that we discussed, the TCP header is also described in your 32-bit pattern only. So this is the 32-bit pattern of this TCP header. The first field that we have in our TCP header is source port number, and this is your destination port number. Again, we are talking the term port number because we are talking about the transport layer which deals with the port number only. On the transport layer, the communicating factor is your port number. So the service which has originated this packet of TCP, its port number goes in this field, and the service which for which the packet was created. Just understand, like suppose if we are sending a email and that email we want to through this email we want to shoot some SMS, let's say. So the port number corresponding to email will come here, and the port number corresponding to SMS service will come here. Okay, so I hope that this is this makes you now clear about the port number. So in the 16-bit we define the source port number and the destination port number. Now, class, just like this IP header, we have number of packets moving in the same stream. Let's say if we have 1,000 segments corresponding to one message. So in that case, this packet is one of the packet of your that stream. So in sequence number, we define the sequence number of this packet in the byte stream. Let's say if we have 1,000 TCP packet moving from source to destination, in that case, what is the sequence number of this particular packet is defined under this sequence number field, and the size of this field is 32-bit. That means the sequence number cannot be more than 2 to the power 32 in value. Now again, the acknowledgement, because as I've told you that the TCP follows the reliable connection oriented services. I told you the TCP follows the reliable and connection oriented services. So here we have the point of reliability that we can bring through this acknowledgement number, and we keep this acknowledgement number in this field. Acknowledgement number means the let's say if we are if we are sending a packet number X, so before along with the packet number X, we are acknowledging the packet number of Y that we have already received. So we are keeping this acknowledgement number of the previously received packet in our this packet. Let's say if two communicants A and B are communicating, and this particular segment that we are discussing at this time is sent by B to A. So that means in this acknowledgement field, we are keeping the acknowledgement number that was which is corresponding to the data which was sent by host A to host B, and as a reply of that, host B is replying to the sender of this packet in terms of the acknowledgement number. So acknowledgement number is just like a confirmation of the delivery. So this is the acknowledgement field. That means the size of this field is 32-bit. So now this 32-bit field acknowledgement number contains the acknowledgement number of the segment. Now again we have after this we have next field of next header. Sorry, the header length. Header length field of 4 bits. Header length means what is the length of this header, because the size of this header can vary. So what is the size of this header? And because after this header, the user will start reading this data. So what is the size of this header? This is defined under this 4-bit field. Now, with the help of 4-bit, can we have a value of 60? The answer is no, because 4-bit means only number 15. Because with the help of 4-bit, we can divide only the number 15. So we multiply each number by 4. Let's say if the value inside this field is let's say 1010, that means 10. So what is the length of header? It is 10 into 4. That means the 40 size, 40 is the 40 byte is the length of this header. So in this way we define the length of the header, and the maximum size of this header can vary up to 60 byte. So in that case, the value of this field will be 1111. Like here we can see this thing. Okay, if it is 1111, that means 15. 15 multiplied by 4, it will be 60. So the 60 is a maximum size of your header. And the next field of your this TCP datagram is, just a minute, it is for future uses. So this 6-bit field is not yet used. It is reserved for the future development. Okay. Next is urgent pointer field, URG pointer field. So I mean, after this future use field of 6 bits, we have 6 flags: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All these 6 flags are of 1 bit. Understand? All these 6 flags are of 1 field, and the if it is 1, that means it can only have 2 values. Either it can be 1 or it can be a 0. So that means if the flag value 1 is if the urgent pointer value 1 is high, that means we need to immediately process this particular segment. URG, urgent pointer, means if the flag value is high, that means the user immediately need this packet for the application. Acknowledgement field. If there is an acknowledgement, if there is any valid acknowledgement inside the data segment, in that case this ACK field is 1, otherwise we keep this acknowledgement as 0. Okay. Plus URG pointer flag means this, if this field is high, that means the user immediately need this data segment for the for its application. If ACK flag is high, that means the acknowledgement field is a valid number. Push or push pointer. That means if this field is high, if this flag is high, and that means if this flag is having value 1, that means the receiver will immediately push this particular packet to the upper layer protocol. That means because the TCP header will be read by your transport layer of the receiver, and as soon as this push pointer value is high on the receiving end, we will immediately push this particular segment to our upper layers of the receiver and on the receiving end, we know that above the transport layer we have session presentation and application layer. So if this push pointer is high, we'll immediately push this data segment to our upper layer protocol. Reset. Reset means if there is any fault in the system, if there is any error in the system, we will reset. We will set this value as reset as 1. That means we have to reset. We have to discard this particular segment, and we have to go one step back. Reset means go one step back. Like in our mobile also, we have a reset facility. Reset the mobile and restore the factory settings. So reset means going back to the previous state. So if the reset value is high, if the reset flag is 1, it means that we have to go back and we have to restore the previous state. Synchronization. If this SYN, this flag is high, it means that the user want to establish a synchronization, okay, with the receiver. The sender want to establish a synchronization with the receiver. And then finally we have last field as the finalize pointer. This particular means synchronization, means establishing the communication, and FIN, finalize flag, means we have to terminate the connection. So there are 6 flags corresponding to controlling this particular entire communication. That is why the transport layer is also known as process communication layer. URG pointer is high. I'll repeat all these 6 flags. URG pointer is high, URG flag is high. That means we have to urgently process this particular frame for this segment. If the ACK field is high, that means the segment contains a valid acknowledgement number. If the PSH push field is high, that means we have to immediately push this particular segment to our upper layer protocols of the receiver. If the reset field is high, that means we have to discard this particular segment and we have to restore the previous state. I mean, this kind of this condition appears when there is any fault in the receiving. Synchronization means we have to when the sender is wants to establish a synchronization with the receiver, and FIN finalize means the receiver want to when the sender want to terminate the connection. Okay, so these are the 6 flags corresponding to controlling the connection between the source and destination. The next field is window size field. Window size means how many how many TCP segments the sender can send without waiting for the acknowledgements. I'll discuss this topic also when we discuss the unit 2. Window size means a frame. Window you can imagine like a frame or a collection of the segments that we can send without waiting for the acknowledgements. And here in case of TCP, the size of window is 16 bits. That means 2 to the power 16. 2 to the power 16 TCP segments we can send without waiting for the acknowledgements. And let's say if the total size, the total time of sending these 2 to the power 16 TCP segment is let's say 5 seconds. So till 5 seconds we will keep sending our segments one by one, and we won't wait for the acknowledgements to come back. After 5 seconds, we will check that whether we have got the acknowledgements of packet. We are getting the acknowledgements of the packets or not. Otherwise, we'll have to we have to restore our previous sending process. So window size means the size of the window, and window size means the number of TCP segments that we can send without waiting for the acknowledgements to come back. Now, again, in case of this, similar to the previous protocol, your UDP protocol, we have some checksum point here, and checksum is again of 16-bit here. Then this is urgent pointer. Like here we have checked the urgent pointer flag field. If the URG flag field is high, that means we need to immediately read this particular value of urgent pointer. This urgent pointer contains a important content about the important value about the this particular data. And if this URG pointer is high, that means the control will immediately move to this particular bit, the starting of this pointer, and it will start reading this particular this field urgent pointer. Urgent pointer means the important information about the data segment. And after all these compulsory fields, we have two optional fields. The first one is called option field. The name is option field, and finally we have the data field. So option field means, through this option field, TCP is introducing some additional values here. If the option field is, inside the option field, we are introducing the concept of additional security, or if we are trying to establish a reliable communication, and if we are trying to provide some extra facilities to the communicants. That facilities are managed, or they are labeled inside this option field. And finally we have data. The data we are representing here, so in order to show here. So this option field is of 40 byte, and this is the overall structure of your TCP header format. TCP, I'll repeat it once again: source port number, destination port number, the port number of the service which has originated this particular TCP segment, the service for which the TCP segment was created. Sequence number means the sequence number of this particular packet. Acknowledgement number means the acknowledgement corresponding to the previous receiving. Then the header length, the size of header. Again, the future, these 6 bits are not in use. This is reserved for the future uses. Urgent pointer field, these are the 6 flags corresponding to controlling this data segment. Urgent pointer, if this field is high, we will move immediately to our urgent pointer field and will read this content because it is useful for the data. If this ACK field is high, that means we have an a valid acknowledgement field. Push pointer is high, that means we have to immediately push this data segment to the above layer protocols. If reset is high, that means we need to immediately reset the no, connection, and we have to restore the previous state. Synchronization means we need to synchronize the connection. Finalize means we need to finalize the connection. Window size means this the number of TCP segments that we can send without waiting for the acknowledgements. And here in case of TCP, the total number of segments that we can send is 2 to the power 16. And similar to the previous one, we have here 16-bit checksum field, which is corresponding to the for finding the errors in this data segment. Urgent pointer, I told you about the field. Optional means providing the additional facilities like extra security, or if we are providing some encryption, decryption, facilities inside the segment, we present all these things in our 40-bit field here, and this is your data corresponding to TCP. So this is all about TCP and UDP. Now, if you have any doubt, you can ask me at this point. Otherwise, I'll move further, and we'll discuss some questions corresponding to this topic. If you have any doubt, you can ask me some questions. Otherwise, class, if you have any doubt, you can ask me. Otherwise, I'll move further with discuss the. Any one of you can reply. Hello.
No, sir, no doubts.
Okay. So now we'll take some questions corresponding to this. We'll discuss, for example, the question corresponding to TCP field is like what kind of question you may have in examination corresponding to this. So I mean, this is the question. For the following is a dump of TCP header in a hexadecimal format. Find out, first one is what is the source port number, what is the destination port number, what is the sequence number, what is the acknowledgement number, what is the length of header, and what is the window size. So if you are not aware about the format of TCP header, you won't be able to solve this kind of question. So now class, this is a this is the header, this is the dump of TCP, this is the complete TCP header, and we have to understand each value one by one. So class, this is the hexadecimal format. So what we have to do, we have to convert each digit into the decimal into the binary format. Then we can read, because in case of header format, all the values are defined in terms of the bits only, and here we have numbers in hexadecimal. So what we have to do first, we need to first convert this hexadecimal number into the binary. So now when we are converting this value into the binary, we will get this thing as 0000. Here we can see this thing. Then again 5 is 0101. Then next is 0011, and this 2 is 0010. So now with the help of these 16 bits, with the help of 4 hexadecimal number, we can find out the value of your value of certain fields. So before that, you need to memorize this header format, and in that header format, you can see that the first 4 bits are corresponding to your this header length. I'm sorry, source port number. I'm sorry, 16 bits are corresponding to your source port number. So with the help of these 16 bits plus, with the help of these 16 bits, or with the help of these 4 hexadecimal number, we can find out the value of your source port number. Similarly, the next 4 hexadecimal number will give you the value of your destination port number. Class understand? So this is the source port number in 16 bit. This is the destination port number in 16 bits. Now, what is the sequence number? You can see in the format, after the 32 bits,
16 bit for source port number, 16 bit for destination port number. We have 32 bit for your sequence number. So this is the, this is source port number, this is your destination port number. Then we have 32 bits, 32 bit corresponding to your sequence number. So the sequence number is all zeros. Here we can see this thing, zero, 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 all zeros, and again all zeros, and here we have only one. That means this is the first segment of the stream. This is the first packet that we have got here. So this sequence number is one. Here, because the sequence number is one, that means this is the first packet of the stream. So that is why the next 32-bit field is zero. Next 32-bit field is acknowledgement field, and the second field is zero. So this is the 8-bit. Eight hexadecimal numbers are converted into the binary, and it will give you 32 next digits, and all these digits are zero. That means the acknowledgement number is zero. That means there is no valid acknowledgement inside this data segment. Now next is, what is the length of the header? So now the header length is given by your the bits immediately after the acknowledgement number. So after this acknowledgement number field, we have 5. 5 means 0, 1, 0, 1. Okay, so 0, 1, 0, 1 is 5. So that's to find out the value of your header length, what we have to do? We have to multiply with this value with 4. So 5 into 4 is 20. That means the size of your header is 20 bits. That means there is no option and no, the option field is 0 inside this header. Now again, we'll move further, and the next 6 bits are your after this 5, we'll take the 2 octets. We'll take the 2 nibbles, and we'll get the next binary value. Next byte. And out of these 8 bits, class, you can check from these two 00. So these 6 bits are reserved for the future uses. So out of these 6 bits, we are taking the 2 bits, and it will move to the next field. In this way, we can find out the value of your the headers, the flags, 6 flags. So this is how the different values can be derived with the help of this the given value of your TCP header value. So you can see the solution here. All the values are explained. All the digits were converted into binary, and it is written in the form of in the form of octets to have a better understanding over the content. So this is the this is a sequence number 60. This is the 32-bit field sequence number. Then we have 32-bit field of acknowledgement. After this we have after this ACK field we have header length. After that we have 6-bit field of future use, and in this way we can find out the different values of the fields in this CK header. And similarly we can find out the value of your UDP header also. This is your UDP header. Similar to the previous one, we have got one UDP term. What we have to do, because this is a hexadecimal number, so what we have done, we have converted this hexadecimal into the to have a better understanding over this, we should convert this into the binary. Here because at this time we did not have our nodes at the home, so I have asked one of your senior to provide me the nodes. So what he has done, he has converted this this number into the octal numbers, and based on this octal number, similar to the previous one, in case of UDP header, it is very easy to learn the header format. 16-bit each. So 16-bit source port number, 16-bit destination port number, 16-bit for checksum, and 16-bit for header length. So in this way, we can find out the values of the different fields of your TCP, of your UDP header also. Plus, you can just take a minute, and if you have any doubt, you can tell me. Otherwise, I'll repeat the yesterday's topic and After that, I'll complete this. You can revise it. Meanwhile, after that I'll start discussion about the classes. Class, if any doubt, you can tell me. Otherwise, I'll move to the next discussion.
No doubt, sir.
Okay. So now I'll repeat the yesterday's topic. One topic of yesterday, because the student is asking for the doubt. Ayush Dwivedi is asking for the revision. So I'll repeat that topic today. Just a minute. So this is your class full addressing. I mean, why the classes are created? Because we want to specify the addresses corresponding to each different type of user. That is why the classes were made. So when there are four octates in your in the IP address, these four octates are separated by the three dots. So A dot, B dot, C dot, D, and here the values of A, B, C, and D can vary from 0 to 255. So I mean, this is how the division is done. So the smallest IP address can be 0.0.0.0, and the largest can be 255.255.255. And I mean, the entire range of IP addresses 2 to the power 32 IP addresses are divided into 5 different classes: A, B, C, and A, B, C, D, and E. So class A, I mean, in all these classes, we have categorized the classes based on the number of hosts and number of uh, the network that we are creating through the IP address. So in case of class A, the format of the IP address is first bit is always 0. Understand? First bit is always 0. If it is 0, if you can remember that, we have discussed one flow chart also to understand about the yeah, this was the flow chart that we have discussed to find out the class of the IP address. If the first bit is 0, class A. If it is 1, then we will check the second bit. If it is 0, that means if the combination is 1 0, it is class B. If it is not 0, that means it is 1. So the sequence is 1 1. In that case, we'll check the third bit. So if the third bit is 0, we are in class C. If it is 1, then we'll check the fourth bit. So if the fourth bit is 0, that means we are in class D. If the fourth bit is 1, that means we are in class E. So this is how this is the format of your different classes of IP. Now, what is the division of these IP addresses? So we can see here. So class A, the range starts from 0.0.0.0 to 127.255.255.255.255, and here the division of your the net ID and host ID. There are two parts of your IP address. I have told you, net ID and host ID. Net ID means the proportion of your IP address corresponding to the logical addressing, and the host ID means the portion of your IP address corresponding to your the physical address. Okay, so the net ID is of one octet, and the 3 octets are for host ID. So including the zero in case of class A, we have 1 octet for net ID and 3 octets for host ID. That means the maximum number of hosts that can exist in this network is 2 to the power 24 minus 2. It means the first and last are exempted. It means we cannot have this is not allocated to any user, and 127. I mean, this is 0.0.0. This is also not allocated to any user. These are the reserved field. 0.0.0.0 is a special case of IP addresses which is allocated to all the users, all the set devices at the time of booting in the network. So this is an interview question of the placement drives. When do we allocate the IP address the 0.0.0.0 to a device? It means 0.0.0.0.0 IP address is allocated to a device at the time when it is it gets booted in the network, and 255.255.255 means broadcast. So all these, I mean, both of these two are restricted. So what we have to do, 2 to the power 24 minus 2. So these many hosts can exist in this network. Similar to this, I mean, we have class B in which the range starts from 128.0.0.0 to 191.55.55.55, and the format of IP starts in this number as 10. Okay, so the first IP address in this range is 128.0.0.0.0. The last one is 191.55.55.55. So leaving these two, we have total number of hosts in this system as 2 to the power 16 minus 2, because the number of hosts, now the number of hosts in this network are 16 bit for net ID, including that 10, and 16 bit for host ID. So the number of hosts that can exist in this class B network is 2 to the power 16 minus 2. Now we are moving on to the class C, which starts from 192.0.0.0 and it ends on to the 223.55.55.55, and the format is 110. So leaving these two IP addresses corresponding to the unicast and broadcast, we have, I mean, in case of class C, we have only 1 octet corresponding to your host ID and 3 octets corresponding to your net ID. It means 2 to the power 8 minus 2 hosts can exist in this network, in this the network corresponding to class C address. And finally, we have class D, which is corresponding to your multicast users. The range starts from 224.0.0.0 to 223.55 to 55.255. Okay. Now the format is 1110. And similar, I mean, this class is reserved. I told you this class is reserved for the multicast users, and this is the class reserved for the future users. I mean, it is not yet used, and the range starts from 250.0.0.0 to 255.55.55. The last IP address according to the class for addressing. So this is all about your classes of IP. This is a division of net ID host ID. First, we have one octet for net ID, 3 octet for host ID. Then we have 2 octets for net ID, 2 octets for host ID. Then we have 3 octets for net ID, 1 octet for host ID, and then finally we have multicast users, and this is for future users. This is how the IP addresses are. Class, if you need doubt, you can tell me. Otherwise, I'll find this session for today and we'll meet in this class.
No, sir, no doubt, sir.
Okay. So revise the content of today also. If you have any doubt, you can talk to me in the next class. That next class is probably on Friday. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you,
If you need doubt, you can tell me.
Sure,
Okay,
sir.
sir.
Thank you.